It's like this, that there is, this is B'chinas Yechida. Yechida, there's two k'tzavos. On one hand, Yechida is the Nekodas HaEtzem, which is higher than the whole category, the whole gather of Pratim. Nyanim of Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama Chaya, they're Nyanim Neflaim. Nefesh, Ruach, Midis, Chaya is Ratzin, Neshama is Meichin, Chaya is Ratzin Shalman, Metamadas, but it's all in Nyanim which have a certain, they're Indian Prati. They're in Nyanim. Nyanim Neflaim Eid, but they're in Nyanim Mugdarim, specific in Nyanim. Mashenke, the Yechida is the Nekodas HaMahus of the Neshama, the Nekodas HaEtzem, which the Etzem has no tzir. The Etzem is beyond the whole musig of how and what and Vasfaraif and that Inyan doesn't the Mahusa Inyan without any Agdara. So on one hand, since the Etzem is the Mahusa Inyan without any Agdara, so on one hand you can't, if you want to describe Chassidus, you want to describe the Etzem, you can't use any Musagim from Pratim, even though they're Nyanim Nechin Eflaim, but they're Nyanim of Prat. So an Inyan of Prat has Shalei Be'er Klal, the Gabi the Mahos, the way the Mahos has no Shaykhs Tetzir. So since that's one aspect of B'chinas Yechida. Since Chassidus Amshach from B'chinas Ein Sof, from the Etzem of Elokus, so the Etzem of Elokus, any Inyan Achin Niflo, that's all the Inyan of Prat, Inyan which has a certain definition. It has a certain definition, so it's Shalei Be'er Klal, the Gabi the Etzem Mahos, which is beyond any Inyan of Tzir and Prat. The Malam Yigeda Prat. The Mele, so you can't, all the Biyurim of State, and Vaspa State, the Malam from Chassidus, that doesn't describe what Inyan Chassidus is, and not only doesn't describe Stamazeh, because you're missing more. It's Shalei Be'er Klal, Mitzadech, Mitzad since Chassidus is the Nekodas HaEtzem, the Etzem is Shalom Mitavas HaShleimus, because you can't define it, so it's also not defined in the fact that it's removed from Keiches. Fakert, it's the Etzem Mahus of everything. That's the core of the whole Metzias. And B'shas, the Etzem is, since the Etzem is Shalom Mitavas HaShleimus, it's Shalom in Kamos, Shalom in Eichus, but Meila B'shas, the Etzem is Nimshach, so then the Etzem is not limited, that it only has an effect in a specific place. If the Etzem is Nimshach, so everything is transformed. Everything wird Iber gemacht. That's the Rebbe says. If you have the Moshel, Tesefes in Seichel, someone gets Tesefes in Seichel, Tesefes in Midis, so that's not going to change automatically the entire person. It's going to change that area where the Tesefes was. Masha'inkin, if there's a Zgalush, as Amshara from the Etzem Mahusa Adam, which everything stems from that core, and that core is not a defined Mitzias. It's Shalom Ataras HaShleimus. It's not, has no definition at all. So B'meila, and it's the core of everything. So the Etzem is Mizgale, everything is Nishlam. It has an effect everywhere. That brings the two Nekudas and Shemen. On one hand, Shemen is not mis'areh with anything. It means you can't compare it, so to speak. It doesn't relate to any other mashke. B'meila, the Shemen always stays movable. It means a other mashke in the world could be nis'areh. Means in the Nimshal means every Inyan has a certain erech. We're speaking about the way Elam is Gvul. You have the way Elokus has a shaykhis to Elam, Elokus is Slavish Elam, so it's the way shaykhis has a certain seer. If it has a certain seer, there is a zdamus. You can be medame to another prat. Masha'inkin, the Nekodas HaEtzem, which is Ein Sof, so Ein Sof is not shaykhis to any tzir prati. Ein Sof is higher than the whole gather of prat. So it's mitzadechat Shem and any mis'areh b'shum davar. It's not shaykhis to tzir prati. Le'idach, since Shem is the reflex, the Nekodas HaEtzem, which is the base of everything, the core of everything, and the Nekodas Etzem is because it's not mugdal at all. Therefore, it also has it contains everything because it's not mugdal at all. So b'meila shemen, the whole other mashka or the other plate, if it goes into a chayfetz, if you have a plate from a davar which is something which is not shemen to another chaticha, so there's going to be a limit to how much the plate is going to integrate. It's going to have an effect on the chayfetz where it's going to be nivla. It means the dugma, if you have a chaticha chusha, that's chatichas isuk chusha, which is pilot into a chatichas heter, there'll be agbalah to ktei netila, ktei klifats, and it's not chayder b'kol kol. Mashikin the tchun of shemen is that if it gets attached to something, if it goes into something, it's a drink tadurch, it has an effect on the entire chayfetz, on the entire chaticha. There's not gwas. There is on chassidus, because chassidus and Nekodas HaEtzem, it's not shaykh to say that when chassidus is nimshach and veld, it's going to have an effect only in a certain area. Everything is going to be transformed inside this air. If this air was Nimshach and Veld, got in contact with the world, every single aspect in the universe is going to be affected. What type of effect? First of all, that there's going to be a muhus, that there's going to be a ubinizgalda, the pnimius, the core of everything. So now you could have the Metzias of Seichel, the way Seichel have Metzias of Seichel. Or you see how Seichel results has a core. The Seichel is an expression of something real. The muhus of Seichel is Nizgalda. That's one maila. That's the Rebbe says that Chassidus brings a chayis into everything. And the second Inyan is not only that B'shas, the primus is Gala, so everything is Nishlam because it's Nirgash, the core, the real meaning behind everything, the Mahus of everything. But not only that, but even in the realm of Havana, Means in the every realm of the darg of the Indian, it's going to be nishlam. Let's say we speak when you get the seichel. Let's say b'shas the etzem is going to be nimshach, and seichel will be linked to the etzem. So not only now seichel has a muhus, seichel stems from somewhere, it has a nekuda, but mit besser verstehen. The avanas seichel will be better. Because since the etzem is not mugder, so if the etzem is nimshach, everything is affected. Every realm of the mitzvah is affected by the fact that the etzem is nimshach. So the Rebbe says, "B'shas chassidus is nimshach in the world." So it's not only that a certain aspect was improved mitzad hamshachas chassidus. Every single aspect in the world was changed, and it took pratim. First of all, you have sinizgali gavon, who became connected to its muhus, to its pnimius. So everything got a pnimius, and also not only everything got a pnimius, but the tzir prati of everything was nishlam. This is what the Rebbe says. If you look at the Lashon, the Rebbe says in Sif, it's a very strong Eishprach, but if you look in the Lashon of, where is the Rebbe uses the Lashon, in Sivav, the Rebbe says, Chassidus Chayis Chodesh, Kasher Chayis Chodesh Zeh, Shalach Chassidus Imshach Ba'elam, Yischilu Kol Inyan Ha'elam Nichis B'Chayis Chodesh. Everything started living different. Kol Inyan Ha'elam is every single aspect in the world was affected by the Eirach Chassidus. B'Meilim is Chachshu B'Mkam Inyan. This is Nishkin Pashta Inin. So that's what the Rebbe also says, we learned before, that's why it's misbata in the fact that in Chassidus, not like all other Chalkei HaTorah, you have Biyurim in all Daldat Chalkei HaTorah. You have in a Maimer, the Maimer starts off with the Ramaskel, with the part Kashas in the Pasuk, Kashas at the Pshutish Mikra, and there's Biyurim at the Pshutish Mikra in the Pasuk. Why isn't it? You don't find it in the Chveis in the Sefer Halacha that Chag have to explain the Inyanim Apid the Darg of Pshat. So all other Chalkei HaTorah are in Prati. Allah is coming to explain Ma'aseh Sheyasa. This in Chelik of Pshat Shabbatayr is being mavayir in the Inyanim Pshutish Mikra. So it's Pshat will be a new Heisafe, a new Gilui. Chveis Pirish Rash Al Teira Nai Gilui Pshutish Mikra. It's not going to change the Eifin Alimah of Allah. To be a new Gilui, Vitz Verstehen Chveis Lamdis, it's not going to affect that Mele also the Indian of Drush is going to be Beifin Achar. It doesn't affect Drush. Anayir Derech Alimah in Gemara. Mashikin, so having a Maimer is Amshachas Eirach Chassidus. Why does Maimer contain new Nemazim, a new Gematriyos, a new Inyanim in Drush, new Inyanim Kabbalah, and new Inyanim in Pshat? It's not Stam Derech Hagag. Once the Eirach Chassidus, since the Eir Atzmi, so this Eir is Nimshach, on one hand, nothing compares to this Eir. It's a different Indian, it's a unique Indian. The Either when this Eir is Nimshach, because this Eir has no definition. The Mele, it affects everywhere that comes in contact with it. So Mele in the Alt Heitz Commentator, Mele Yeder Indian, the Eir Chassidus is Nimshach Torah Maimer, it's a new Ilu in Pshat and Remez and Drush and everything. And both pratim side that it's Nizgalda the Muhusa Indian and side that Pashat the Pshat Gufe wird verstanden. Das ist ein Zen, die Prati Advar.
So the Pshat that Kabbalah and Chassidus is referred to as Pnimius HaTorah.
The Rebbe this is just Rosen der Reis. Chassidus is not Kabbalah. Chassidus is Rosen der Rosen. Kabbalah is also a certain seer. That's the Chelik HaSayt, speaking about I don't know exactly what Kabbalah is, but it's speaking about a certain Darga of Elikus. A certain phase in reality. Pshat Rem is just said, which is connected to all the elements. Atzilus B'rei Tzir Asiyah. So you have Atzilus is also an elam. It means it's a galus of a certain Indian elikus. Mashiach Chassidus is not a certain Indian elikus. It's the etzem of elikus, which from him stems all these Indian. It's a whole different Indian. So B'shas, the reason the Rebbe said before in the beginning that in Sof, but the fact that it's B'yurim Chassidus, that's in order for to connect the Yid with the Saint Sof. But Chassidus Hamshach of B'chinas Ein Sof. And B'shas this Ein Sof is Nimshach, so everything is different. Kabbalah is Nishlam Gavarn. The Muhus of Kabbalah was Nizgala. The Muhus of Seid, the Muhus of Drush, everything was Nishlam. Huh?
Kabbalah is a Bir Chassidus.
Yeah, that brings another before. Yeah, but that's a in the parsha. That's Kabbalah is a Bir Chassidus. I understand what it means. But Akopanim, that's it. But Chassidus is not Kabbalah. Chassidus is not just being Mevair, Seichu B'Tayr and Seichel. That's what the Rebbe is saying. Chassidus is not the understand pashtas. What's a Maimer explaining concepts of Kabbalah, man soll keiner verstehen. That's the result. Since Chassidus is Amshach of Chayis Atzmi, of Ein Sof, Mitzad Ein Sof, you could explain even secrets. That's different. Mitzad the Pnimius of Torah, even in Yonim of Seid, could be Nizgal. But that's not, nicht in dem besteht the meaning. Chassidus didn't come to explain, you should understand Eitz Chaim, you should understand it Ba'avana V'asag. Chassidus is connected with Ein Sof, and to Megala Yitz Pnimius HaNeshama. Let's get to Rebbe Reden. To Megala Yitz Pnimius HaNeshama. The etzem of the neshama. Mashiach Chelik HaKabbalah is not relating to the etzem of the Yid. Chelik HaKabbalah is relating to the chveis, to the certain darga in the neshama. The way the neshama is connected to Atzilus. The etzem of Husa Inni, the way Yid's connected to the Eibishter's etzem, that's Chassidus. One of the expressions, or one of the results is that Elikus is Nimshach Seichel. We'll see, we didn't read. There's already before. which we didn't go through it. The Rebbe's Mevar there, Peli brought 4 biurim, beginning of the countries, and was besteht the Mile of Chassidus. The Peli, the Primi says all these biurim, and then besteht the Inyan. Inyan is Amshachas Ein Sof. The Peli, the Rebbe he explains before why all the biurim that he mentions earlier is that it's of the fact that Chassidus is Amshachah from the Primius of Torah, from the Etzim of Torah. The Etzim means not the way Torah relates to a certain phase, to a certain tzir, to a certain target. The Primius is. Good. So the Rebbe is bringing a dogma for this. It means to mamcher sein the meaning, to explain what's the Pshat Chassidus brings a chayis in everything. What's the Pshat Chassidus itself is beyond everything. But le'idach, everything is not Pshat Chassidus in Gali that negated other things. But everything was improved in Sadei Chassidus. Transformed and improved in a way that Sinim Shegavarna Pnimius and Alts. The Rebbe was brought before, we saw this the other time. Once a Yid learns Chassidus, a Yid is Mamshech Eirach Chassidus in his world, so first of all, it's going to affect every single part of the person. Whether he likes it or not, it's going to affect every single part of the person. And not only it's going to, so the Rebbe gives a few dogmas before the Yid learns Chassidus, so even when he learns Stam as a Yid in Pshat, but there's another Chayis. He's margish that there's a Mohus there. It's not just a technische Sache. There's a Mohus, but that's Lamer Zen, the dogma that the Rebbe brings it. So Mahalten da the dogma from Medani. We'll see the Teichen Advarim from before, within the dogma, to sein mehr clearer, Efshir. So what's the dogma Medani? So about Medani, according to the Pshat, Rem is just Seich B'Teirah. Medani Pshat is thanking the Eibush of the year that a person woke up in the morning. That's Medani Pshat. Medani Rem is that Medani reminds the fact that when you wakes in the morning, it's Mischazik Ezamun and Tchias HaMesim, and that's saying this beer itself. Side the first also has no real muhustit. I'm saying, hey, thank you. You have to say thank you. It's one of the nimusim. They actually created the world with a teva that the person has to have a karas hateva. Could have created the world with a different nature. But there's good. You could take it also as a technical thing. I mean, some of the reasons here. Where Birchas is that a yid that's connected to the Eibishter in all aspects of his life. And even he has to express hakaras hateva. So there's pshat. And then I'm trying to bring out that there's an Inyan, it could be Birchas in itself, could be something with Adam Mohos. You have to say thank you. It's a dry Inyan. You can do it, that there's a Chiva Pialach to say thank you. You have to say thank you. It's a technicality. You went to somebody, you have to tell, it's one of the Nimusim was Medarf Tan. Or there's a Mohus behind this Inyan. Yeah, the Rebbe is not masbih here. What's the Mohus behind the idea of a Karas HaTev? I'm just saying, what's the Pshat Chassidus brings in a chayis to everything. Not that there's no musik of a karas hateva, but there should be a mahus to this karas hateva. It's not just some technical form of behavior. Was not zachfir nazar. Good. Well, we'll see later. There was masber and get me that. The remez is tchias hamesim, which that's also taka weiter remez, and then there's drush is that a person should learn from the Eibishter to be ish neman, should be loyal. That if someone gives you a pikad, you shouldn't keep it in order to be gave a chavis. The Eibishter is nice and he gives us back on Hashem every morning. And then there is the Birap Yisayt, that the Neshama comes from Malchus Beis Miyuchad B'T Yisayt. So let's get to it. What steht noch Chassidus when you get... so Rebbe Hitman sagt das, Sifir Aleph. A Bir Anal, Shal Pidal Chalke Apartis, Neve Shoch Neshama Chayish B'Teir. Mevair in Yonim Pratim, Be'erech HaKlal Godel Sheb'Zeh, V'Hidoy Dud Meidani. It's Mevair in all the Yonim Pratim. The idea of being Makar Teva to the Eibishter, to say thank you. That's connected to the mohus of a person. That's connected to the mohus of a yid. It's eine von den Jahren Pratim. Tchias HaMesim is also a remes of Tchias HaMesim. It's not essential. It's not an essential Indian which is negate to the mohus of a yid. There's all the beauty. Why? Because all the Chalkei Torah deal with certain aspects of Elims. Pshat is connected to Asiyah. See, Elam Asiyah is one realm of Elims. The Inyan of the Rapi Pashtis is the Slapshas HaTorah and the Elam Asiyah. So it's dealing with the Inyan and the way they are Pshat, not the Inyan the way they are in the Hierarchy. It's all Inyan and Prat. Mashiach in Chassidus is a different Inyan. By the Medani. But Teres Chassidus, Yechidah Shebetayla, Umeve'eres Bir Kloli. Yeah, I mean an Inyan which is not negate to the general Mohus of a Yid. And not only is the general Nekuda that's going to be very soon, but also Meve'eres and Nekuda Atzmis, the core of Medani, which is Neveh from Chines Yechidah Shebetayla. A beer it's not a beer from a Maimer. It's a beer from it's Naimim. It's from a letter of Frierdiker Rebbe. No, this beer. Kapan is not a used the beer of Chassidus. You're ready to a Maimer ergezvu. Lohaven Inyan Medani or Dover Kaitze was it. It's a word Naimim. But a beer of Chassidus al Medani is as it. Has Cholasi shall say that Ayem who Medani. It's a word from Frierdiker Rebbe. Has Cholasi shall say that Ayem who Medani. It's the only from the top. She'emrim Eisei Kedem Netil Sidain. Yeah, first thing in the morning before the Kazim Zak Meidan. I feel be Yadayim Tmeis. Why? Because she call it Tumish Ba'elam Inin Metamis as a Meida'ani Shal Yehudi. Efshe Shi Yachos B'inin Zay B'inin Acher, aber the Meida'ani Shalei Nishar Tomid B'Shleimus. That's the word besteht in Chassidus B'negeh to Meida'ani. Now what Meida'ani is Mevat, what does the Friedrich Rebbe say? The Meida'ani is that Nekuda V'yid, there's Nekuda Sakashet Holocaust that no Tumah can be paid. Every other Indian that a person has, every other keshet, there's other dargers of keshet holocaust could be nivgam through tumah. Yid wants to have havanas v'asagas atayr, or to be masker Shem Hashem. So a person has to be, you need certain tnaim in order to have the connection in the form of Talmud Torah. Davash in the hand before you're leimah Torah. You have to be im doachel lekras lekech. So there's let's say in the nekuda vayid being medabek is mayach to the Eibishter. The seichel, there's Akdamas which I needed before. He has to be mezuchach in order to learn to be mekasher the seichel to the Eibishter. There's one nekudas hakesher to lekus which exists in the yid, which nothing could block that nekudas hakesher. That nekudas hakesher is always there, and that nekudas hakesher zok zechareis meidani. That was like the Friedrich Rebbe. That's the end of Meidani. Meidani is not here. The Adgosh is not the Meidani. Is a thank you. Meidani is that the yid's expressing his connection to the Eibishter. He's saying thank you. That's the Chitzen is the Ketzir, but he's expressing a certain relation to Lukus, and it's a certain relation which nothing could be paid, nothing could be metame that relation to the Eibishter. So Shtagei and Bas Fara'if and I mentioned is it could be his Kechas HaSeichel or the Alter says in Tanya. A Yid learned to Chachmas Chitzenius, so it's Chabat Shebenefesh become Tam. Other inyanim, a person could detach certain kreiches from the Eibishter, and they become detached from Malachus. Mashiachim and again, Meida'ani expresses that aspect of need which cannot be detached or cannot be weakened, cannot be nitma. It's alam al gans, and that's the schol of the Metzias of the Yid. That's the schol of the day because that's the beginning of the Metzias Yid. That state in here Meida'ani is. I was going to say in Pratim here, but Meida'ani is not. We're not being madgish. Saying thank you to the Eibishter is just that's the chitzenis the kalavush in how he expresses his connection. But the Nekudas Advar Nachsidus Madgish is the etzem fact that there's a connection to Lukus, which the first initial connection that every Yid has to the Eibishter. And the initial connection is Azam Yisar Zav, which nothing could detach a Yid from the Eibishter. A certain aspect in a Yid which cannot be detached or nitma. Mitzanish Leinish Tom B'Shleimus. Das steht in it. The Rebbe hebt on Taichen as it. This Nekudas HaKesher is a Kesher of a Yid with the Eibishter, which is unbreakable. Kein Zach kenes Schatten, das Neveah from the Bechina B'Yichide Dafke. Why? Bedad the Bechina Sefer Shulchan Neshama Chai is Shaykh in Abgam Egam Tumah Chulu. Even more Tumah. Aber mitzad the Yichide Shebin Neshama Shem Yichedes Tomet Batzmus Yisbarich in Shaykh Kol Gam B'Tumah Chas Shalom B'Nisha Tam B'Shleibos. Yeah, the Rebbe says there are a couple of ways, but they're very strong. Saying Azam. Yes, I mean that's versteht jeder einer. If you Nefesh Shulchan Neshama Chai, let's say Nefesh. Nefesh is this is the let's say the Levush Machshava Dibur Ma'aser or Ma'aser. So in was in the darga of nefesh, with what is a yid connected to the Eibishter? It's the darga of nefesh. It's the darga of ma'aser. That he is mekpel mamish and kabbalah and himself il malchus shamayim. With what is he practically connected to the Eibishter? In actuality, in ma'aser. With the fact he's mekabel il malchus shamayim doesn't do the Eibishter once. That nekuda, if he does not do what the Eibishter once, so that nekuda is lacking. That nekuda is a kesher, which is the nekuda of the darga of nefesh, which is the kesher that a yid bepoil mamish is an evid of the Eibishter, the mitzias lepoil. So if it's not like that, so then there's a gam, it's missing. And that nekuda could be nitma. That means there could be a state where a yid where a yid his kayach hamaisa became tummy. And now even if he's nishadei pashat, a yid is going to do tshuva, but he's going to have kaparet to take away the tumah was to give on the kayach hamaisa zayin. So, yet the kesher b'maisa, person has levushim, ivarim. So a person can be metamed these ivarim. These ivarim are ivarim in Welt. In order for this connection to be maintained, he has to pel mamish do the inyan. Eber tutish die Sachen, so the kesher, these things could become detached or become heipach, could become nitma. They can become in a state that they're not roy anymore for dvekas halakus. There's going to get to every inyan ruach chay avir. A person's midas. If the person's mashkiya is midas in yan elam haze, so they're detached from halakus, and maybe it could be a pgam in his midas or tumen is midas, and there's everything. The Rebbe says here, the fact that there could be a nekuda yid, that regardless of what he does, the rest of tumas is kan zayin of the world. There's a certain nekuda where a yid, nothing could detach a yid from the Eibishter. That's only mitzad the darga b'yichidus shebenefesh, which is miyuchedes tomid batzmus yisbarach. Mashmas is, and this is a nekuda that's all the other dargas say seichel l'mosh. So nefesh b'china of neshama is the chabat shebenefesh, which how does Chabad Shebenefesh connect to the Eibishter? You see, Kol Chush Tevis Mokshe. So Seichel connects to the Eibishter by understanding the Eibishter. Seichel doesn't connect to an Inyan through something else. The way Seichel connects to Musig is, to Inyan is, through Havana saying. So Havana is, so there's like bolus. You're taking a Lakus in a certain seer. A Lakus, the way Lakus is connected to a certain seer, so it's a certain Metzias. A certain Metzias, there's Kedusha and there's Klippa. And every Davar Mugbal, there could be a Metzias, which is Machlish, which is Mafsik, that Davar Mugbal. That Davar Prat. The Chiddush of the Neshama is that Darg of the Neshama, where the Neshama is connected, is Miyuchedes, is one with Atzmos. Atzmos has no gather with Tzir Klal. The Gabi Atzmos is not shaykh to say there's a certain Indian that detaches you, that's Machlish, you kesher to Atzmos. Atzmos is not shaykh to any Agdar. Any which has a certain Gvul, a certain Metzias. So that Metzias, you could there's a certain Agbal. If someone's going to use a Seichel for a Yadam of a Chveis Tumah, so that's a stira to be connected to the Eibush Talpi Seichel. That's a stira that your Seichel should be durchgenommen with Holocaust. Seichel being Amenus the Keres Chabad for Nyan Elam Hazeh, so that's mafsik, that's a stira to use the Keres of Chabad for Kedusha. Because the Holocaust Vet Nesgal in Chabad is a Holocaust in a certain Hagbal, in a certain Sir. And mitzad that, there's a certain Hagbal and tonight that in Yanam of Klippis, in Yanam of Hepech, are the stira to that form of connection. And there's in the Ma'ila the only darga, so to speak, that legabe that darga, there's not shaykh to say anything that should cause an effect on the darga, is only legabe Atzmos himself. Legabe Atzmos himself, there's not shaykh to say there's a certain Indian which is a stira, which is going to block Atzmos from being connected. That's one of every other tzir is a certain, if it's a certain Indian, so then there could be something which counters that Indian. I mean, this could be Lamai Lamai, there's Kama Dargis in them. But the Rebbe adds another, the Rebbe says in the Lashon here, the Chiddush should be Neshama Shem Yuchedes Tomid Batzmus Yisbarach. It's one of the Pratim that when you get the Inyan of Never Shuach and Neshama Chaya, there's two aspects in them. You say Seichel, but Pashas Advar, Seichel. So there's the Metzias of Seichel, Chabad Shem Neshama. There's the Tzir of Chabad, and then there's the fact that it's Chabad, which Inyani is to connect to the Eibishter. But there's a tzir outside of the musig of connection to Logos. There's a certain tzir in the pchina of neshama. It's in nefesh neshama chaya. Each pchina has a certain function, a certain tzir. That function is a certain form of connection in connecting to the Eibishter. But there's a certain form, a certain tzir over there. So that tzir could be detached from the Nekuda Sini. Masha'ekin Yechida has no tzir. It's homo husis yichud to the Eibishter. Yechida is not a certain Inyan. It's not a certain Inyan. Yechida is the mohus of being connected to Eibishter himself. So all the other dargas which are a certain seer, their connection to Eibishter is also based on a certain seer. Mashiach and Chiddush ben Neshama, its homohus is yichud with Eibishter. It has no seer. So if it's a homohus is yichud, that's its homohus. And with what is it yichud? With the nekudas atzmos, nekudas alakus. And that nekuda, there's no way for that nekuda to be detached or chalishus. Yeah, it's not a double. We're dealing with chveis. Even Yanam of Hebech Ratzon Elyon, that's which in Yanam of Hebech Ratzon Elyon, even in the deepest darkness they should make a gam. But Hebech Ratzon Elyon in the Nekudas Ha'etzim, it's not mavd like you do the Eibishter. That's inside the Nekudas Ha'etzim. Every other darga in Aveda could be pagan there. Mashiach the Nekudas Ha'echide, which is the darga of the Neshama is one with the Etzim of Elokus, which has no tzir and no tayar. So that Inyan is not shaykh that says there should be something that should be a menag, it should be a stira, that should be machlish that. That's the way it's Sichida. So der Nekuda, that's der Nekuda steht in Chassidus. This Nekuda that there's a darga and a yid. The fact, the aspect in a yid, the way is one with the atzmius of Elokus, which is higher than any Geder V'Tayar. That Nekuda is not spoken about in other places, in Kabbalah and in Drush and in Seid, because they all relate to Elokus. The way Elokus is mizgal in a certain darga, in a certain seer. But retish v'geder etzim from Elokus, the Elokus is batzmus. Kabbalah is, you say there's Dalet Chalka Tera Pardes, Keneged Dalet Ilmas. So same Dalet Ilmas are a certain, every Ilm is a certain Darga in Welt, a certain form of Metzias. So the Dalet Pardes, which is Keneged Dalet Ilmas, is the way Tera relates to a certain phase in Metzias. So that Darga of, the way that, what's for a Darga in Elokus Vert is Galet through that Chelik in Tera. The way Elokus relates to a certain, to that Tzir, to the Tzir of Atzilus, to the Tzir of Biyar, to the Tzir of Bria, to the Tzir of Asiyah. Even the way Elokus relates, the way Elokus is mislabish in a certain Tzir, there is certain Tnoim in order for that connection to be retained. And there's something which is a menagid, which could be menea, which could be a stira to that Darga. Zelo Mazar Salakim. The same way, let's say Atzilus. There's Atzilus and there's a Hepech. There's Hepech Halakus. Zelo Mazar Salakim. But that's all in Elimus is Zelo Mazar Hepech Halakim. And the way and the way Elikus relates to Elimus, the way Torah relates to Elimus, and the way through Torah Elikus is Galul Fierach Elimus. So there's Zelu Mazeh, so there could be a stira to that connection, and it could be the Srachik from that. Masha Enkin Chassidus is Megale, Chassidus is in Yani is the way Torah is connected to the premise of Elikus, and through Chassidus is Gale the Elikus, the Elikus is Batzmusik. So Melech Chassidus is Megale Ayid, who Ayid is Mekusha with the Nekudas Ha'etzem, and mitzad that Nekudas Ha'etzem. It's not trying to say tum. So where there is gebracht, there nekuda meidani, the meidani reflects that nekuda in a yid, that connection that a yid has. That tum is nicht pagan. That's that chassidus is amasert word. To see that nekuda seina, there's that what's expressed in meidani. The muhus of a yid. What's the muhus of a yid? Not the fact that as a versteht gadol saveru. Not that he's the edel mensch, that he has avavir. The muhus of a yid is that the atam b'chartanim mekol that a yid is one with the Eibishter himself, with atzmusi is word. That's the core of it. Everything else is in order for that Peshet HaLukus to be in Izgala. In Tzir, in Metzias, that from Verstehen, and that learning, but that's all a result of the core. That's a result of that. The Etzem is that a Yid's Nishma, that the B'chinas and the Hayichide, which is Miyuchedes with Hatzmas. Und der Nekud, der wird da Riz gesagt, der Medan. That's, Medan ist nicht Tam Dushnichtes. Ja, man versteht die Mini.
Like they could be Megala, I'm saying. Since it's Megala, but I'm saying in is almost.
But it wasn't access to them. But why wasn't it spoken about? It spoke come upon. Chassidus didn't create new inyan. Atzmos wasn't created. Atzmos almo given, but it wasn't in a way that it was nimshik var mitzvah. So it was like the ma'ase with the Magid, with the Vesiyasif. It wasn't a mitzvah. In mitzvah, this inyan didn't have an effect. To see in a yid vexed chuf in the free and says medani. To see in that an expression that nothing could be pagan, the most of a yid. He wakes up in the morning, he didn't daven yet, that he didn't think anything. He wakes up without any preparation. His first tnuah is medani lefanacha. Before you had time to think anything. Before you have time to eis cheshbon and inyan. No, you don't have to. The Afil says the Lashon Haschalasi shall say that means not that a person wakes up and then he thinks, oh, I have to thank the Eibishter. So then it's not the Haschal. First you have to make a cheshbon and then he said thank you. Ayid vek miyad shiner mishnasi is zakta medan. That means that Ayid without what before anything is connected to the Eibishter. His very muhus is connected to the Eibishter. And the Eibishter, the way the Eibishter is ba'atzmus, not the Eibishter is connected. If this whole connection to the Eibishter was based on as a versteht gadol saver, so you can't miyad shiner mishnasi, you can't say medan. First you have to think that the Eibishter is great. It has to enter you in your mind that in you. He didn't. No thoughts entered his mind yet. How is he going to say medani right away? The minute he wakes up, it's right away say medani. He has to first think that the Eibishter created the world. That's if his connection was based on chveis savana vasag. But if be'etzemu husi is one with atzmos, the minute you have a yid, you have kesher. You have a metzias over here, which is one with the Eibishter. That's his most. So and from dort stand the medani. That's a schlossish. The medani is never from that nekud in a yid that is connected to the premise of Elikus. That's his muhus, and what's his muhus? The connection to Atzmos, which is beyond any pirush, beyond any tayar. So Meiler, dafür strachten Gadol Saver. Sidfaran Ayid, he says Medana. He turns to the Eibishter. Before any cheshbonos. Because his connection to Elikus is beyond cheshbonos. That's Haschalasi shall say that. Yeah, the word is Haschalasi shall say that. So you don't have to, there's no preparation that you need to do for it. Because that's the given, that's the mohus. Von dem hebt sich an die ganze Sache. The Eibishter is the beginning of everything. Atzmus. And the Nekudas and Yichide V'Yid, he's the one that initiated the whole Metzias of Seder Shashal Chachma V'Seichel Amidus. And that Nekuda doesn't need any that's the premise. Ayid vek tzechuf, without thinking, Ayid says Medani.
Saying Medani is the Gillah. The Gillah
yeah, that's the Nekudas Ha'etzem. What do you mean? You're saying before the Baal Shem Tov it existed. It existed in premise. It wasn't as Gala. The Inyan wasn't Nimshach Metzias. It's a gewendert, but it wasn't part of the reality. That's already a premise the Getam. Medani bertish their mon the Eibishter's names. The reason is because he didn't say you can if you have a skar of Shem Hashem wollte man nicht gekannt sagen Medani. The whole point we can say Medani is because we don't mention any Askardas. But the Tam Pnimi is Mikivan Shamedani. The fact that you just woke up in the morning. So Vana stammt is that a Yid without any tzir says thank you to David. When a person just woke up, there's no tzir yet. He didn't manage to process anything yet. Because managing process is already after the state of miyad. Before anything. So and that from Vana stammt is that a Yid before he processed anything, he's connected to David already. That's mitzat b'chinas ha'yichida. With what is Yechida is not connected to Lakus, Lakus is connected to Tzir. If Yechida was a certain Metzias, a certain image, an image connects to Lakus, the way Lakus relates to that image. Seichel connects to the muscle of the Indian. A mid is connected to the regesh of the Indian. Since the Kesh Medani begins from B'chinas Yechida, which is Etzem HaNeshama, Etzem HaNeshama is via Hotishkin Tzir, via Yid's Homo Hus is Yichud with the Lakus on Tzir, the primis of Lakus, the Atzmis of Lakus. So we bow as Medani stammt from Yechida, so let me lefanacha. The Eibishter himself, unashamed. Hari Aidosh Etzem HaNeshama Latzmuz his birth to lay itfas b'shem. Means is up in Nigla, but it's be'etzem there should have been Shem Hashem. Should have been Shem Hashem. L'payol, there's from the various reasons we can't put Shem Hashem. There is mitzad the mohos. We're holding deeper than Shem. We're holding with the etzem. We're holding lefanacha. It's the ani, the atzmis of a yid to lefanacha to the etzem of the Eibishter. That's the way Yechida talks to the Eibishter, unchanged. But that's Atzm Saleh. Yeah. Oh, so I said it before. L'chein nemer bir zeh b'chsidus dafke. It does verstehen mir sehr gut that this Nekuda Medani, to bring out this point of Medani, we have different bir Medani. Medani is mechazik chves emun and chves amesim. Medani makes a yid more chves. You should trust. Because here we're saying Medani expresses the nekuda atzmis of a yid. The nekuda of what a yid really is, the core of a yid. A yid is nicht hasagi and gadus avera. A yid is not avera. A yid is that he's be'etzim one with atzmis of a levus. That Medani expresses, and that's the core of the day. That's the core of everything. If I care, the hasagi that he has later in that pasuk of the Zimra, that's all that it's saw from the very nekuda of what a yid is. This Medani, so according to the Bir of Chassidus, Medani brings out the Pnimis HaMuhus of Asayidis. There's this Nekuda Benafshi which is not connected to Tzior, and it's not connected together. It's Miyuchet Tomid Batzmos Yizbarach. Of L'chein Nemer Bir Zeh B'Chassidus Dafka. Es geht da Chalak in Pardes, der sagt er so. Mikiven Shein Yonim, Nevesh Ruach in the Chayish B'Teira. The Mela, they don't relate to B'chinas Yechida. Einem Evarim in Yechida. That means it's all Torah. The way Torah relates to a certain seer, and if Torah, the way Lakus is connected to Torah is Chachmaz Shlag Baruch. It's the way Insaf is connected to a certain inyan. This so they don't. Yechida is not an inyan. Yechida is the aspect of it that's one with Atzmos. That's not inspired in the Chorah. Why is it not inspired there? Because it's not their inyan. Their inyan is you say why doesn't Seichel is not Etzem. Seichel is Metzias of Seichel. So Shar Chalka Torah. It's not their inyan. And they don't quote Yechida. Neshama li neshama. B'chinas Yechida ein nimnis. Ki nichlal l'si b'neshama l'neshama b'chinas Chai. But the Chassidus, which is Yechida Shevet means that Chassidus is the B'chinas ha'etzem of Torah. But verbinds sich with the Pnimis ha'etzem of Elokus, which that's the darkness mushes the etzem of Kudah of a Yid. So there's mavur the Baruch in Yanu Shal Yechida. Darkness met gerat because that's. There says in the Pnim that in Shar Chalka Torah ain't a mevarim in the Yechida. There is another 79. Afsheniska means sever dermont, but it's not nisbar. It means that's what it means that it's mentioned, but it's not nisbar. There's Lahoyer. שבחינת יחידה שבזרח יחיד בייס שם מבחינת בכל נפשך ולא בכל מידך שמזל שאין זה אמיתס בחינת יחיד. But even if it was mentioned, but it stayed behela. We know that there's something beyond Metzias. But there in it was Hecher from Metzias, Hecher from Tzir, wasn't is nicht Arab gebracht geworden. In a way that it could be in his bar and kind of mazbas and he could relate it. But Shekin Echida in Yoni is to bring out Anikud of Alakus. So what are we saying? What's the Rebbe saying now? There's two ksavas in B'chinas Echida. One Nikud in B'chinas Echida is that it's a Nikud of Ein Sof. So maybe there's no ashva between B'chinas Echida to other dagish. There's no ashva. There's no connection. So this the Rebbe brought out to the Meidani brings out that Inyan which is Shaykhis the Tziyur, and any Inyan which has a certain Hagbala, there can be, it's Shaykhis the Tuman to Gam. A Hagbala means is a certain Tziyur. So if you detach from that Tziyur, so it's a stira to that Tziyur. So the Rapash, so a person has Seichel. If you're going to do things, Heipach HaSeichel, you're going to be Machlish, Shekei HaSeichel. Every Kayach, every Inyan Prati has certain Tnayim that's needed in order for it to be Vez after Zayn. If you do things that are stirited, that is not taken. So Masha'ik in Chassidus, which is from Chinas Ein Sof, we made that's higher than Shemus. Tumah is not pagan. So this is all bringing out how the Nekuda Asmas of Chassidus is an Inyan which is beyond the whole gather of Prat Tzir. L'umas all the other Biyurim, which are Shaykhs all Tinyanim of Tzir and Prat. Now the Rebbe's Meisef here, the second aspect, the other extreme, that since the Chassidus brings out the Pnimis of a Yid, I mean this is the let's see the Meisef, but the Rebbe's bringing out, since Chassidus touches the Pnimis on the Kod of a Yid, where a Yid is one with the Atzmis of the Eibishter, where the Nisham is Miyuchedes with Atzmos, Hadish can Tzir, his Inyan is Yichud with the Eibishter. Which Eibishter? The Eibishter which has no the Atzmis of the Kod. Chassidus brings out that in. So and that is not just another dark. That's the core of everything. Everything stems from this Nekudas Etzem. So since Chidei B'chinas Etzem HaNeshama, Shemimena Nimshach is out of B'chinas Etzem HaNeshama Chaya. So in Meila, the Abir Chassidus Hamavar and Nekuda Atzem is the Meida Ani Habam B'chinas Eichide Machayu Maver Gam is the Al B'Yurim Anal Shapatis Ater Hamavar Dem Sapratim Meida Ani. They'll come out. His cause man Chassidus was in the Pnimius of what Meida Ani is the technicalities of it. We can't say Al-Kanasham right away. The premise Indian that there's that the Meidani is a result of the fact that's the Zgalus HaEtzem, that's Chassidus HaRizgabat. And that's the Mahus of what Meidani is. All the other Biyurim are all the way this Mahus stems from Atzmas. And once if you have the Nekudas HaEtzem, so the Etzem is not movable, so this Indian expresses itself in all darkest too, in all realms. So the Rebbe is going to continue to explain how through the beer of Chassidus, which brings out the Nekuda Atzmas of Meidani, thus it's Machaya, and it gives another Clarket, another Emek, another Avana in all the other beer. It means we're not being Shelul other beer. There's still the aspect, that means on a most basic level, there is the basic aspect of reality. A person just woke up this morning, and he just got life. Merely has to thank David for life. That's the most basic thing that's happening. When you say that Meidani, it reflects the Nekudas Etzem of a Yid. That doesn't negate the fact that Meidani, you're saying thank you. It's not a pshat a Yid. That's you say if you're in touch with the fact that through Meidani, it's a beauty of the fact that Neshama is one with the Eibishter, so Mele, you don't care about life yet. Now we're not dealing with B'shas Vetnis Gale. A Yid is just say a Yid that wakes up in the morning. A Yid is a Chveis Abal Kabbalah, and he is misbeina that the Chveis Melechai V'Kayom. So Hotish Kimpanim Dart Nur, it doesn't relate at all to the saying thank you for the fact that he's alive. He's relating not to Melech Malchus V'Etz Mushish V'Tisei. The Rebbe is saying mitzad the beer of Chassidus that Meidani is a reflection of the Nekudas HaEtzem of a Yid that doesn't negate the other Yan of Meidani. Fakert, it brings in them a new Chayis, a new Pnimis. A new Chayis that we'll see in by certain Biyurim that brings out a new Chayis in the Indian. Certain Biyurim that also, through the Eirach Chassidus, those Biyurim are more understood, are more clear, are more ba'avan. Let's get Zen. Number Zen. Yeah, I mean, you'll see it's not the pshat, the Rebbe touches here. I mean, some Biyurim are different, but this is the first way the Rebbe gives a dogma of how the Biyur HaChassidus brings a chayis in the chelik pshat of Meidani. But it's not that the Frierdiker Rebbe's Biyur, it's not the Frierdiker Rebbe's Biyur, that Tumah, the Chassidus is Megala the Nekudas HaEtzem of a Yid. The Nekudas HaYechid of a Yid. When the Nekudas HaYechid is Nizgala, even the Meidani Api Pshat is going to be in a different Eifen. That's what the Rebbe is going to bring out of here. Not that the explanation of the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to give us a better chayis in that Biyur. The explanation of the Frierdiker Rebbe brings out B'chinas HaYechid of a Yid. B'shas the Yid is in touch with this B'chinas HaYechid, so when he thanks the Eibishter for them that left, it's going to be with a different chayis. So I don't do this beer. Let's say Chveis Tamazeh Yid learns Amayim Chassidus, and it's Megal his Yechida. Chassidus is Megal Yid's Yechida when he's going to say Meidani, when he's going to thank the Eibishter for the fact that he's alive. It doesn't relate to this specific beer of B'chinas HaYechid. Here is that B'teichainin, yeah. Ha'ilam Haven Adavar Hazeh. I'm saying the lashon the Rebbe says here is A beer should be chassidus. What does it mean to be beer should be chassidus? The Frierdiker Rebbe's beer that no tumah can be pagan, the Meida'ane of a Yid, that's not what's going to add an explanation. That's not what's going to be made of a beer in Chelik Apshat. And the fact that the Meida'ane is a thank you. The beer of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Mehusa beer is that there's an etzem of a Yid, which is one with Atzmos. Which is Hom Mehus is Yichud with Atzmos. B'Shas, their beer says, me bring Tareiz them. You see, you explain something means that you're highlighting a certain concept. Is Mevar Azach. So as I'm saying, just a pashta Azach. You say, Imin Zert verstanden a certain in a Svarah in Gemara. So a certain concept you didn't know before, now we got to know this concept. Now that you know this concept, is it going to change your whole life? It's going to change how you put on pajamas. Not necessarily going to change it. You just got it's going to change if it's better verstehen at zweiter Allah. But it's not going to change with this. Mashenke, the Frierdiker Rebbe, this word, the Chassidus brings out that the Meida'ani of a Yid, that the Meida'ani expresses this in Kudah of a Yid, where the Kudah is that the Yid's connection to the Eibusher is not limited, and nothing could affect it, and it doesn't need any preparation. So this concept, what's this concept? Yechidush Neshama. When a Yid becomes in touch with the Yechidush Neshama, so it's not only it's going to stay in the realm of Meida'ani, it's going to affect every aspect of his life. And when he says thank you to the fact that he's alive, this concept is going to make him say thank you to Rebbe. Let's get to Rebbe. It's not like we understand the word literally, that the Frierdiker Rebbe's biur, but mechayes and yana biur. Means the concept of Frierdiker Rebbe Tareiz gesagt, which this concept is Yechidush Neshama. Because there's that word Tareiz gesagt, everything is going to be different. Not that we're not going to negate. It's not that he's going to stop saying thank you for the fact that he's alive. That thank you is going to be with chayes. You understand the meaning? Let's get things in.
But connecting to Yechid is dafka through Seichel.
Oh no, who said it through Seichel?
Saying dafka through Chassidus.
Chassidus is not Seichel. Chassidus is not Seichel. It's not a part of Seichel. Chassidus explains. What does it mean it explains? It brought this darga of Yechid in a way that it brought it intimacies. They were able to access it. It's not an inyan of Seichel. It's an inyan of Atzmis. It's an inyan of a Yid where Yid's miyuchad with Atzmis of the Eibusher. Chassidus explained it means it brought out that level in reality. It brought out that Nekudas Etzem. What does it mean it brought out? It brought it, we're able to access it. We're able to relate to it. So we can sustain. We can read them again. We can trachten again. I'm saying it was always, Atzmas is always there. But it wasn't a part of the reality that we're living. Atzmas is built in Metzias Nimtza. Etzem Neshama V'Yid, but it exists, I don't know, it existed in the realm of Atzmas. Not that a person Lamata Neshama B'Guf is able to relate to this. Chassidus was Mevair, the Nekudas Eichel. Mevair means that Sotareiz gebracht this Nekudas Eichel. Was mamshach in Welt. It's not the word of Seichel. The word is that it was mamshach in Welt. Welt is the Aschol of Elam is Seichel. The word is not Seichel.
This is part of Torah.
But it's the Etzem of Torah. It's not a part of Torah. This is the Etzem of Torah. The Etzem of Torah. All the other Chalkat Torah is the way Torah connects with a certain darga mitzvahs. Chassidus is the core of the Inyan, the Etzem Inyan. The Neshama has many keiches. Well, what's the Etzem Hus Neshama? The Etzem Hus Neshama is connection to the Eibusher without a tzir. There's Elokus, the Elokus is beyond tzir, that's the Atzmos. And there's the Neshama, the Neshama is connected to the Eibusher without a tzir. It means that's the way Neshama is one with Atzmos. And there's Torah, the way Torah relates to Welt. And there's Torah, the way Torah is connected to the Primis Elokus, the way it is Batzmos. And Chassidus is the Gili of that Inyan.
Other dargis in Torah, dargis in Seichel,
is dargis of the way Torah is not necessarily Seichel. Kabbalah is Seichel as far as Seichel this is. That's a whole different type of Seichel. But it's Torah, the Torah relates to a certain darga. Not every Seichel is not the ultimate darga. There's different dargas. There's Atzilus, Bri, Tzir, Asiyah. Ka'asoid is connected Chelik Atzilus. Connected Elam Atzilus. There's different dargas in Elamis. There's Seichel of Atzilus, as far as Seichel this is. And there's the way Torah is, the way Chochmah Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Melubish in that tzir, in that Inyan. We already said before, that in all other, besides for Chassidus, it's the way in Saf is Melubish in a certain tzir. Whether it's the tzir of Atzilus, the tzir of Bria, or the tzir of Asiyah. It's a certain tzir. The way so Torah is the way Torah is in Saf, Torah is a Lakus. But it's the way a Lakus is Melubish in a certain Inyan, in a certain phase, in a certain tzir. Chassidus is, but what's the Pnimius? The Pnimius is that's the Eibusher himself. That's the core. Everything else is the different levushim for that core. But that core was never brought out begoli. And Chassidus is the izgalus of that core. That Nekudas says.
Torah is not a Torah. You're not in Torah the Vana Vasaga.
There's different fundamental Torah. Torah is the that's like in Psak. Psak Torah the halach is lebeshamayim. There's different aspects of Torah. I'm saying this. You have Nevi'im, they're also part of Torah. So the Yirmiyah and Navi is in of Seichel, it's not regular Seichel. I mean, it's a different, we can't pass them based on Nevuah, but it's a part of Torah. So, a different Indian. I'm saying, I mean, that bisschen wie es geht, die Sachen, but it's not, soll sein Seichel, no, you mean Seichel is as Chos and Metzias available, but it's not again, the Lashon Seichel or not Seichel. The Nukudah is that the Dalet Chalkei Torah are all the way Torah relates and is melubish in a certain target. You see, it's connected to a certain Eilam. So there's generally the whole Seder HaMetzias is Neschalek in 4 categories. Atzilus B'Yitzir, Atzilus the Chlolos, but Atzilus B'Yitzir. And Torah is melubish also in these 4 categories because the way there's different dargis in Torah which relates to different dargis in Ilmis. Since B'cholos Ilmis is nechlek in 4 dargis, 4 categories, so there's generally 4 dargis in Torah. But that's all the way Torah relates to a certain darg in Elam. But what's we going to Rebbe Shtar nothing to do with the Megedder of Ilmis. And there's Torah, the Torah is Miyuchat Batzmusah. Not the way Torah is Shaychas to Metzias. There's Torah, the way Torah is Miyuchat Batzmusah. That's the Eirach Chassidus, is Nimshach from that darga. The fact that Pradas connected all the elements, that's steht in Kabbalah. That's not. So for the Chassidus is also true. I'm saying we're a little bit biased here because the Rebbe is coming to explain about this. Das steht in Kabbalah. It's not the pshat that. Rebbe says that Meretash again in other Chalkei Torah. Meretash again this Nekudah is a Nekudah in Alakus, which has no Shaychus to Tzir, wird nicht gerettet in other Chalkei Torah. That there's a darga of a yid, that a yid is beyond any musig of tzir. Steht is not an andere chalkei Torah. It's not the Alter is mevar in tiny that the neshama even heisa ba'omna ite is barich. That even a yid was tut an avera is the primus neshama is nicht interessiert in them. Even mishas the avera. But Alter Rebbe that we can steht is an andere erde. This because there's a b'china in a yid that nothing can be pagan than a kod.
Inside the yid learning Chassidus means
he's mamshechin. But that's, I'm saying you have understanding. It's the Inyan that you're connecting to is not an Inyan of, it's not a concept. It's pnimius. This pnimius is how does it come to your world? How does it come to you? How does it become part of your mitzvah? It's a different story. You're using seichel as a method to bring the Inyan. Says mevar im chinas seichel. The nekudah is not verstehen. The nekudah is seichel as aschol of mitzvah. I'm saying Zamun is beyond it. So that's the pnimius, which is Ein Sof, should be nimshach in the mitzvah. I'm saying it has to be part of the person's conscience. And if it's not part of his conscience, it's not part of his world. He could have a etzem on a shamer veisus regular. I'm saying it's not a part of his reality. So you're using the word seichel in this regard is not about zucht mazber. It's that's the way that something penetrates a person's conscious self. Let's say it that way. So what's that the nekudah se'etzem should be nimshach in his world. Where the nekudah when a yid wird verbunden der nekudah se'echide, so alt wird anders. They would say even before understanding it, a yid learned chassidus. Lima the chassidus lepel mamish is changes the whole person because it's the chayis where chassidus connected to the chayis, which is atzmi salakus. So Atzmi Selakus, there's no limit to where it's going to have an effect on the person. Yeah, it's nicht as pasht, das steht da. Yeah, so the comment prater. Let me get a bit weiter. So we'll see the Amazon. Chayish Chassidus machnisa b'chelik apshat shebemedani. I'm saying this is there's a lot of Yanim Yisaidim in this context really. I'm saying this is Nishkin Pashta Esius, but okay. Good. Chayish Chassidus machnisa b'chelik apshat shebemedani. What's the pashas of Meidani? What's the simple, basic Inyan of Meidani? Haidoi al she'chzarti b'nishmas. Medank to Meivishten that I'm alive this morning. What's the chayis of Chassidus bring to Reine then? A chayis, so the Rebbe is like this. Is hadgoshe b'pirush nishmasi, neshama shali. Das Merish Kala Ida Yel Azar is Nishmas Yehudi. I say, Meid Ani Lefanecha, Shechzarta Bin Shmasi. Why don't you say Shechzarta Bin Shama? You wake up in the morning, you're not thanking the Eibishter for the fact that you're a Yid. That there's other brachas in davening. If Chmei Shalei whatever the brachas, even though Shalei Sanigai, the Shulchan Aruch is when you get to mitzvahs, but Meid Ani Lefanecha is brachas, and at the left, stay your life. Well, we don't say that. We thank the Eibishter Nishmasi. They gave me back my life. What do you mean my life? And not my friend's life? What do you mean when we say mine? We're worried. You could have woke up in the morning with someone else's character. What's thank the Eibishter? Nishmasi, they attaches thank the Eibishter the fact that he gave me back on my neshama of a yid. But it's not a time to thank the Eibishter not for having a neshama, for having a chilik coming mamash. You're thanking the Eibishter the fact that you're alive. A yid's wake. When you say brichs and then on an apple, so you're thanking the Eibishter for they're able to eat an apple in order to have kech to learn Torah. Thank the Eibishter for the fact that you're nen from so being alive is anna. But dynamics that anna. But for what's hakten rein, you're that the azarte bin nishmasi. So pshat is der chagav. Once you're mentioning life, you could say it in a nusach of nishmasi. It's not. But the Rebbe says the chayes of chassidus bring to rein is that goshe bepirish nishmasi nishama shali. They're saying the chayes that chassidus brings in that the way a person relates to his life and the way. The basic thing is a person is alive, you thank the Eibishter for life. That's Meidani. Means the Rebbe is bringing out here that Chassidus brings a new chayis in how a person relates to his life. Stamazeh, a mensch lebt. Stamazeh gelebt. And then there is, in Mitzad Galasi V'Chida, a person's basic life has a different chayis. A different muhus. Let's get to Rebbe Masber saying. Yeah, and it's a broader Indian a little bit of here, but I'm going to say what the Rebbe says. At Goshe Pirish Shmasi Neshama Shali. So it's a meres shekol ha'ida, the ganze Zach was sagt that dank. As a lept is al achzaras nishmas Yehudi, and the fact that is that as a hot an neshama. The ilu hoye machzirim le neshama aval acheres. Ema wird umgekehrt not the life of a yid, nachri ve'eved. After Shagam Oza yitzim echal echad mishish b'misal l'chaim. He would have been alive. Loi hoye made. He wouldn't have thanked the Eibishter. Person's alive. The fact that he's alive, that's not matzdik a thank you. The fact that you gave me back my Yiddish neshama is a kind of the thank. So the Rebbe says it's also that this is Nishkin Pashta word. We'll see first what the Rebbe says. This is Nishkin Pashta Indian. This whole Rebbe says like this. Mitzad ha'oras ha'yechida, b'shas herzach ba'yid. The b'chinas ha'yechida means there is yechida itself. That's the Rebbe spoke before. Yechida itself is that there's the mehusa neshama which is one with atzmas. There's no tzir, there's no mitzias. Nishtakin leb, nishtakin. Kol mitzias. There's a kol mehusa of the etzma neshama is yichud with atzmas. Now we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with there's a person which has a life. He's not in atzmas. He has a life. He's eating. He's drinking. He feels it and he lives it. A person living a life. A yid which is connected to yechida, so the ha'aras haneshama, the ha'aras yechida has an effect on how it relates to life. We're not dealing with the yechida k'meish hu b'mkayma. We're dealing with how yechida is mayor in other aspects of the person. That's mitzad ha'aras yechida. Mitzad the fact that it's still leicht by him. So that changes how he relates to the fact that he's alive. How he relates to his basic life. What does the Rebbe say here? The Rebbe says here that mitzad ha'aras ha'yechida, the Rebbe will explain soon why that mitzad ha'aras ha'yechida, but mitzad the fact that a yid, that the b'chinas, as leicht by a yid b'chinas ha'yechida, mitzad that ogalik b'hem, he has the hergish that life without vegas to lekus is not a mitzvah of chaim. It's hasish gelebt. It's not considered life. Not that without vegas to lekus, you're missing vegas to lekus. But you're a live person, you're eating and drinking and enjoying yourself. Without mitzad ha'aras ha'yechida, there's a hergish by a yid that stam as 11 without being double to the Eibishter is not a mitzvah club. Stam as eating and drinking and enjoying your life, whatever a person has, without vegas talukus. This is Chaim Sarim. Chai shel behem amadim lechamer. A nikr chamer. So they're saying b'chlal. A goyish life. Goyish life is not necessarily only eating and drinking. Different eating and drinking could be to enjoy art. I don't know what people the values are. What people live for in Ilam Hazeh. But that mitzad chinas ha'yechida could be the hergish as ken lebenished. Mitzad the other dargis, mitzad nefesh uchan neshama chaya. Also, there could be a yid which is chinas hanefesh, He's a Yid. Means that tzaddik, a Yid, was leicht by him, he has a sagas ulukus, he knows the Eibusher created the world. But he should have a hergish that stamazay living a life of literature, I don't know what people live for, that it's nothing, has no value at all, that can't be without the Aras Echida. This, the Yid could have a hergish, that it could be the most beautiful life, the most you say, the most ideal, I don't know, person lives with values, and the very, very refined life, that it's not, has zero value at all, has zero worth. That's only mitzad Aras Echida. Said other dargis of the neshama, it cannot give a person the feeling that life without Elokus is nothing mamish. Life without Elokus is very low, and it's verschiedene Sachen, but that it's nothing that's dafka mitzad Aras Echida. So the Rebbe says here, mitzad the other dargis of the neshama, the fact that your life has meaning, has value. Being alive is a valuable thing. Your life, you could smell, you could breathe. It's a valuable thing. Then there is, without the lakus, you're missing a major addition to your life. But being alive is a valuable thing. So when you wake up in the morning, the Eibusher gives you this massive matana of being alive. So even what's that when you get to a Yid? The fact that you're alive, you have to say thank you. You have to say thank you. Mashik Masadar say the hergish is that the fact that you could live without dvikas the lakus is garnished. Has zero value at all. That's Masadar say chid. That will get masber sein farvas verschiedene praten mit dem. He said it a little. He says, so what's the, so Chayis Shel Adam? What's Chayis Shel Adam? Ruach Adam Hila means Chayim of Dveikus Telakus. Chayim of Dveikus Telamaker. Chayim Sarim B'fnei Atzmam means Chayim Sarim, which is a Mesharis Telakus. That's what I value. But Chayim Stamazeh Chayis Shel Behem. What's with Chayis Shel Behem? Not eating and drinking. That's mamish. That's not. You don't need the beauty of Chazal of Ruach Behem. That's not. It's Stamazeh. You don't need to bring a chazal here. Someone that his whole life is to enjoy food is mamash behem. It's nothing different. They enjoy kash v'teven, and you enjoy food. If it's just physical pleasure, they were saying ruach behem means that his life bashteit in zayin mitzias, in his mitzias. That's behem. So that's the character of a behem. He's monach himself. He's not ruach adam. His life is not dovuk on Eibusher. So it's about yourself, even if this self is a very lofty self, it's about human rights or other ideals, but it's all shleimus hametzias. So that's hot kein werden nicht, zero value. That's only mitzvah Aras Echida. Nicht sehr pasch. We have some time. We'll learn a bisschen weiter. Okay. Everybody has to think I'll leave it in Afshei in the Inyanim. V'afshei gam Chaim Sarim himetzias chashuva b'yeser. Gash Mystic 11 is a metzias. The Rebbe is mitzayin to some Gemaras, some Rayis, some Psukim da, that Chaim Sarim is a metzias chashuva b'yeser. Stamaz 11. A person alive, in fact, you speak about a person is lives with ideas. This guy made a breakthrough in psychology. Yenot gemacht a breakthrough in this and in that. I mean, they did massive contributions. There's people that you say that's a metzias. A metzias which is not a lukus is zero metzias. Let's see what it says here. Afshegam chaim sorim metzias chashuva b'yeser. Refratshal min hamedaber. Min hamedaber means not only eating and drinking. Min hamedaber means that his life has whatever human being contains within. A massive inyanim, massive contributions to society. And what's the whole system? What's the whole Welt? What's the whole metzias of Welt? What's the meaning in it? Yeah. But so, I'm saying, say someone lived a life of I don't know exactly, he lived a very ideal life, and he made a breakthrough. What's the value? That he made the world a better place. He made people's lives a better place. What's the value of people living? I'm saying, what's the... But they were saying that the Hergish Nazazat, that Chayim without Vegas Lucas is nothing, that's Mitzad Aras Echida. Mitzad oh, so even though Chaim Sarim is Mitzvah Chashuva b'Yeser, b'Fratshel min hamedaber, Hari Kol Yisrael b'nei Malachim. It means they're b'mhusim connected to the Eibusher. Kol Yisrael b'nei Malachim. V'hamus, everything is a dugma. A musik shel Chaim etzel ben Melech, who is kashrusim aviv hamelech. Be'im yitnu lechaim, avli yinat koesim aviv hamelech, v'yachnesu lerefes v'lichis chay behema, Hari lei levat shalei yisanik b'chay zeh, la'adrabi yimayes v'yoketz b'chayiv. That brings a dugma. That was going to explain later that what he wants to say in the Nimshal is Sachvaita from. That was being a dugma. In other words, You could have, let me from Ben Melech. You have, let's say the Rebbe says over here. If you take a person and you put him into a refes, to a shtal, leben chayi behema. You can take a person's living a regular life, you put him into jail, and you give him a little bit of water and bread. A very terrible life. So, you have people that are going to be memayis v'yaketz b'chayiv. The Rebbe doesn't give a from Ben Melech. Any human being. If you're going to reinstellen in a prison, you might want to say he's going to have embarrassment and shame and chveis and sardis. The Rebbe is speaking of Ben Melech. There's a minute, but I'm saying the first thing is you say someone that you're going to put him into a stage where he's going to have. The Rebbe is not dealing with someone. I want to bring out a point here that the Rebbe says the lashon here. In that case, the Rebbe is means you could have someone. So if you have a regular case, someone that's living a regular person, not a Ben Melech, you put him into jail. You have a lot of people that would rather, and you're panicked them. You give someone's going through yisurim, someone's going through pain. He's not going to want to live, not because life has no value, not because life has value, but there's so much. The pain overrides the honor from life. The pain that he's going through overrides the good that he has. That's not the mashal that I was doing here. You have many ifanim where there's a person's living his life. There's good. I mean, there's something valuable, but it's more. It's whether he makes a cheshbon or he can't handle it anymore. So the ra is so strong that it's mizgaber over the taif. Not that there's tzaris v'yisurim. So the Ben Melech, you're living in a shtal. So Mele, he's having pain because the lion is going to bite him. That's a different word. That's not that the very life tegnished. There's pain that he's having that overrides the good little aspect of life that he's having. The Rebbe is saying here that Bilgabia Ben Melech, living a pashita life of eating and drinking like a behema is hasish kan leben. Living detached from his father is not considered a life. That's the reason from Ben Melech, not because of the pain. It can't be a regular person. Let's say a person not going to have pain, but till now he was used to having very fancy foods, and now he's going to have pashta essen. Or till now he was able to sit and be mechadish dirt and art, and now he can't do any of these things. He's not having pain. So then, by regular people, it's not a different muhus legamri. Life in a shtal, living like a behemoth, eating and drinking and sleeping. What's living in a refes baker? Eating and drinking and sleeping without pain, like a cat, like a behemoth. Essen and drinking and schlafen. So, by a regular person, it's not a different mohus of life. It's the same mohus, but he has it much better. If he has all the best foods that he wants, if he's someone that his life is about food. So Azay, when he's living, he's a free person. He could have the best foods, and there he could only eat the shiva food. It's not a different mohus. Even a medaber. Why is he living? Why does he want the whole? A person is the fact that he's alive. Shalas Watzkin, it could be better, it could be more enhanced. It's not a different mahus. The mashal and velt, you could have someone that he's in a different caliber, a different mahus of life. That's a Ben Melech. I don't know in the mashal, but the mashal you could have someone that living stamazeh, peasant life of eating and drinking. He's royalty darten is a different within Elam Haza a different level of life altogether. A different, not the same Indian, much better. You can say b'dugmas zeb and you get the food. You know, the same thing. Besser es and schwacher es because nasach schwacher is mamish eating much lower, much beinarich lower from the best darten, finest peiros darten to fashimot peiros. Mamish shalei be'erich lower, but it's not a different caliber legamri. So there's a becholos hadvarim, a regular person, not a Ben Melech. His musagim of life is there's a certain the Rebbe is not ice touching the Indian, but for a regular person living a simple life of just eating, drinking, and breathing, and exercising, and all the physical things that a person does. Leumas a more broader life is not a different mahos legamri. A Ben Melech is a dugma, someone that's at least in Yanis Manim. So Malchus was a different mohus, a different archavas hanefesh, a different breitkeit. The whole, say in today's day and age, is a little bit different, but in those days there was regular people that their life was regular, simple life, and then there was the Bnei Melachim that had a whole different echos of chinuch and a whole different echos of a whole different value, a whole different frequency of what their life was. So that's a dogma that I want to bring a dogma that you could have. It's not stam that you take away that the person stam as a living. You could have one even that it's the same mahus, much less. It's not a different mahus legamri. So Yid Sidol 11, and there is living with kedusha has much more meaning. If you can take away kedusha, we're going to have less meaning. If you're going to stamazeh, he's going to be stamazeh a writer, and he's not going to have the chayim dartan of kedusha Torah. So it's going to be the same mahus, not a different mahus legamri. You could have someone that making a breakthrough in Chiddush Torah, so that's a big, so you won't make a Chiddush Torah. It's making a breakthrough in Chachmas Arfuah. It's not a different mahus legamri. It's the same mahus, but the Torah is greater. It's not a different mahus. That's what Rebbe wants to bring out. Without ha'aras ha'echida, that kedusha, that welt is a different mahus legamri, and not only a different mahus legamri. It's kein levenish b'chlal. That brings the dugma from Ben Melech. In the mashal, with the extent where you could find this type of Indian, that a person is living a life that legabe, from his point of view, a simple prasta start 11 is in a different caliber legamri, a different mahus legamri. It's not just the same Indian in a lower degree. It's a different mahus legamri. That's the reason mashal of Ben Melech.
So I need to go to the extreme of Refes Bakar. You could take a Ben Melech and make him a simple...
What's Refes Bakar? Eating and drinking. What is Refes Bakar? That means that Ben Melech is living in the barn. So living in the barn could be because he has pain. Living in the barn, it smells. I'm saying, what bothers him that he's living in the barn? That if the word is that he has a bad bed, then it's going to be painful for him to live on the floor. The Rebbe is not saying that there's going to be tsar v'yisurim. That form of life is most the kabin. I mean, stamazeh leben is heipach inyani. But a regular person, it's not heipach inyani. Why is he darten studiering darten? Why does he want to make chidushim in psychology? I don't know what. He wants to feel good. He wants to have a better feeling. So food also gives you a good feeling. Oh, less. It's not a different mahus. For a regular person with regular ideas of life, so living a regular, you'll have food, more basic food and drink in a bed. That's the Refes Bakar. We're not dealing with the pain that's attached to it. The Rebbe's meaning of Refes Bakar is not that there's annoyances. There's a bad smell, and you're going to have to sleep on the floor, and you're going to have a cow, your roommate. The word is over here that the form of life is a low form of life. So a regular person, what's life? He wants to will feeling good, let's say. So the will feeling good, as this making a person uftu in the Chachmas Arfuah makes you feel good, or saving a person's life, let's say, makes you feel good. And you're not going to have that feeling good. You have a basic feeling good, you'll feel full, or other things. You'll have some basic realm of life. It's not a different erech, a different mahus legamri. I'm saying the Gabi Ben Melech, I don't know what a Ben Melech's life is, but the Gabi Ben Melech, Stamasei Leben, it's not the same mahus lower. It's a whole different echos of life. Life by him is being attached to his father, being surrounded by royalty. In dem bashtet leben. That's his mahus. You detach him from that. It's not that he has the same thing on a much lower degree. You took away from him what's for him life. So I want to say in the Nimshal that there's as skenzen by Yid, but even without skenzen the Hergish, that being connected to the Eibishter is much better. Like you say, living a life with contributing dirt and having a greater seichel and greater midas is much better than not having too much seichel. Less seichel, less midas, and you can't be this big macher. Contribute to elam arfuah. It's much lower, but it's not a different mahus. It's the same general she'ifa what life is, but you're much less. But she'ink in here, that without kedusha, life is much lower. But with kedusha, it's much greater. It's much better. But it's not a different mahus legamri. And what Rebbe wants to bring out here in the Nimshal, no, it's a different mahus. It's kein levenish. Wo hat Zeger? Where is the mice? We could just see this. The mice everybody knows, no? We could see left, or was the mice? Huh? Noch einmal? Yeah, let me send the mice. This is what we mind here. We'll go through it. It's going to become clear when the Rebbe's Masber why is Dafka Masat Chnesechid the next. If you do a Sibir Mechazer, you can see a leplish Kshratz Adam Razak the Baruch Barichus Yamim. That'll give him a long life as a Zaina Alta Yid. So you can see a leplish Gezak, aber nicht mit Pöydish Yar, not a pressed life. Chaye Eker. Was in Naim Lehem V'lo Yiru, was Naim Lehem V'lo Yishmo, and Zetten can get Tachkeit, and Herten can get Tachkeit. She'in Reim V'Shem Malakus. So the Shadreb asks L'chura Tamua. Arichus Yam, the theory is giving him a bracha for Arichus Yam. He'll be able to see Einiklach, or Einiklach, be by the Bar Mitzvah, be by the Chasdus, I'm saying, well, that's a Meredika bracha. In Parshas Adbar. Haben Nachas von sie, Kshneis Noel Matan Allah, the Fan Matanik Dele, giving him Arichus Yam. wants not only to be alive and to be able to be the pictures that he should be able to also daven and learn and also so again. Ich kann no as a khayes klar das ist kol ana shvelam ich is hisna harit tnaim babrach told that Rebbe, I'm ready to give me life but not if it's going to be without zen and hern alakos villers nicht not is giving a brach for dich yam what's the khabir is tnai shleri haylish is sifol babrach then as that Rebbe should add not only I should live a long life it was all echet velen hern alakos and if he said and he as he was the pashas amaisa and if you're not going to add me this I'm making a t'nai. He's cornering that he otherwise it doesn't want to brach. Kim shel chasam that's what brach for chasam is ozana mitzias fni mei chaim. Ka yemunach abgelikt das lebe pashish kol mitzias a chayes or rias or shmias alkus. Vol chein his no benit in perish yarn ki yom ve shanim sheneim shem alkus lahei nechsham mesel mitzias klal. Ba'ad rabbe moas be yom shanim. Wasn't considered mitzias for him. He despised it. Not because there would be pain, not because he would be old. He's going to have aches from all the side. Now let's see what have a normal life. You'd be able to sit, and you'd be arichas yamim. But elamai zen and hern alkus voltage God. But not that he didn't want the pain would be too hard for him. Just living, but without being connected to lakus, wasn't a mitzvah of life pain.
That's what it means.
But the chos does Gedaftar is bringing.
If he thinks so, for sure.
I think so. That's if the Rebbe gives a bracha for chesem by the chassid yom is glat as a text. So the
means
not by the chaver to alter b'chaim means. I don't know how brachas work, but it seems like he can give a bracha. But if the mekabel, for the mekabel's point of view, it's considered life. Can sign that the alter Rebbe's pirish will stay bruchnis. That it's chaim will have chesem in Gan Eden, but in Elam Hazeh will have according to what his terms life is. Yeah, I found the Rebbe's namaz b'dan nekuda here. Good Vietnam. This is the kinyanim from this part of the kuntras. Each nekuda is very important in Yonim. These okay. Say that.